Dear Diary, making the decision to immigrate to Calgary felt like I was placing an Amazon order for freedom, endless possibilities, social security, and a beautiful world of seamlessly integrated multiculturalism. Only instead of autofilling my credit card information, clicking buy now, and receiving my package the next day, I spent months filling out paperwork and acquiring various documentations. And I spent years waiting for my visa. And when my metaphorical package finally did arrive, it wasn't exactly what I ordered.
We're Onya and Tomi, and on Diary of a Niger Immigrant, we're talking about what happens after you buy that one-way ticket. We'll chat with guests and hear their immigration stories. We'll commiserate, celebrate wins, and gossip about recent microaggressions. Buckle up, y'all. Excellent. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Diary of a Niger Immigrant.
Woohoo!
Who do we have with us today?
Yeah, today we have a very special guest. I'm very excited about this one. I don't know, you guys don't get tired of me saying I'm very excited about this one. But this one, I'm actually very excited because she's like a mentor to me. Mm-hmm. And she's someone who has held my hand and carried me through being a mother here in Calgary and being a Christian and just going back to my faith and everything. And even my job, I don't think I would have gotten my job if not for this special guest.
MVP.
Yeah, she is a real MVP. And she's like mom goals because she's a serial immigrant. She lived in the UK for a while before coming to, and then moved back to Nigeria before coming to. I'm gonna let her tell you that part of the story. Yes. But she is a medical doctor by profession, and she's practiced for so many years, and finally decided to take her calling as a pastor here in Calgary. And she has two kids, a boy and a girl. And oh my God, I feel like I'm overly introducing her. However, you guys just prepare for greatness because we have greatness before us. And she's so wise. Like, she is so wise. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear some of the things she has to say and her insight about life and her experiences. Yes. And welcome, Tolu Solola.
Thank you.
Dr. Tolu Solola.
Oh, doctor. Yeah, I love that.
Press my head. It's like so swollen. Thank you.
Yeah, we're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we started chatting a little bit like offline before we started recording. And so now I'm just very curious in general to kind of hear, actually, no, before we dive into her story, I guess we kind of introduced you a little bit. Mm-hmm. How would you like to introduce yourself? What tell us just a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm surprised about how accurate Anya was, actually. I'm like, how did she know so much about me? But yeah, basically I'm this, I still think I'm a girl, but born and raised in Nigeria, got married in my late 20s, immediately migrated to the UK. In between the born and the got married, I got a medical degree, met my husband, migrated to the UK with him because of him, hint, hint. But we lived there for 12 years. During that time, we have two children, and then we moved to Calgary. Again, because of him, hint, hint.
Okay. I'm sensing a pattern.
But yeah, that was 10 years ago now that we moved to Calgary, and we've been here ever since, and I'm just enjoying the journey.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Very interesting. Okay, so both of these experiences that you had, you were saying it's kind of, because of your husband that you sort of moved. What did that feel like for you? Like, did you have a lot of processing time before making these moves? Were you looking forward to it? Are you generally just the kind of person who's kind of like up for anything? Like, how has that felt?
Really interesting. So before we got married, my husband and I agreed we both have a sense of adventure.
Cool.
I thought I was the adventurous one, to be honest, until he would just come with these ideas. But the UK one was kind of a natural move because he was born there, even though he was mostly raised in Nigeria. His family had moved back to the UK. So once he finished university, there was nothing in Nigeria for him. And he didn't feel he wanted to live there. Therefore, marrying me would be a reason to stay in Nigeria. So we already had the conversation, like, what are we going to do? Would you be willing to move to the UK? And I'm like, sure, let's do it. Let's just marry. So
wait, at this point, did you have kids?
No.
Okay. Love it.
So, we were young.
Yes.
And then, we had this whole sense of adventure thing. And he's like, you want adventure? Sure, let's go. So I moved to the UK, completely clueless about migration, or even converting my degree. All those things started to come at me, even opening a bank account, because I used to go to the UK on holidays, so I didn't feel there was anything unusual. It was like, it's just England, come on. And I have family there, and I've been going to England since I was a kid. I'm pretty comfortable in England. And then I got there as an immigrant, and suddenly it's like, permanent residence. However, so even things like opening a bank account, I was like, they always say we should have a joint account, and my husband is like, yeah. And we go to the bank, and the bank is like, no, she's a new immigrant, she can't be on your bank account, and we can't even open a bank account for her. And I thought, wow, this is new. So just some little things that you don't even think of when you're jumping, it wasn't for some people have really thought out their migration. For me, I was just in love. I would follow him to the ends of the earth, whatever. So England, here we come.
That's a really interesting point, though, because I feel like for people who do travel a lot and they're super comfortable, it doesn't feel intimidating because, I can adapt. I'm comfortable with different atmospheres and environments and things like that. And then, I don't think anyone thinks traveling is the same as immigration, but I just feel like it's those mundane things that it's just you don't even think about. Yeah. And people think about, getting around, learning the lay of the land, sure. But then it's what's it like to set up a bank account? What's it like to do those little things that you're like, oh my goodness, what are the employment forms that are going to be so different? Or just little things that you're like, oh man, what a learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But we settled down. I did the exams. I was able to start working as a doctor. But I really wanted to be a mom. So we had our first child. And then we had our second child. And then life was just life. And then my husband got another idea, and it's like, why don't we go to Canada?
was it genuinely that he was just like, Canada seems interesting, or was it a really cool job opportunity came, or what? Or was he just like, let's have an adventure?
A job opportunity came.
Yeah. Because he's also a medical doctor.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
And we visited Canada. We visited Canada in 2009. It was Ontario, though, and we loved it, and we're like, wow, we could picture ourselves living here. This is nice. And we really enjoyed it. And then a job opportunity came for him, but it was in Alberta. And we're like, oh, it's Canada.
You're same.
Same Canada.
What a rude awakening for you.
Yeah, you get there. You're like, okay, Ontario is different from Alberta.
It will be a different country.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
And our friends in Ontario said, we thought you were going to move over here to us. And we were like, we thought it was just one country. Hello.
Yes.
We didn't even realize the geography and how it takes 4 hours just to fly from Alberta to
fair,
Ontario.
For a country with the amount of people that we have, it is absurd how much land is here.
It's crazy.
You think a country, I don't know how many people are in Canada, but a country of however many people, you think that's a pretty small country. Okay, I can find my way around, no problem. And then
exactly.
You're like, oh, it's massive.
Exactly, because you think Canada, there aren't many Canadians, but you don't realize their land is huge. It's vast
compared to their population.
Exactly, and I'm coming from England, where what's the longest you could travel somewhere? 8 hours by road or something. It's everywhere is connected. You're like, where are you in France? I can be there by this evening. And then suddenly we're in Canada, and it's like, if you want to come to Ontario, you need to think, and it's not just the travel time; it's the cost. Because again, traveling in Europe is quite good value for money.
Yes,
and then we got here, and it's like, oh, let's just take a trip to Ontario, and it's like, how much did you say? Oh wow, okay,
Right.
Yeah.
There was a long stretch. It's not quite like this
Yeah.
now, but there was a long stretch where it was much cheaper to fly to Europe than to Eastern Canada.
Yeah.
Like that was like, it'd be like a flight to Toronto would be like $800 or something like that, where it's like you could get like a $600 flight to Paris. Like,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
crazy.
It still happened to me after I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a flight to Toronto, and a flight to the UK cost about the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Wait,
okay.
what?
You're like, where do I want to explore?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but just to say, I'm really grateful. Like, yes, I do have a sense of adventure, but I think I really slowed down, and my husband has been the main catalyst for let's go experience something new, a new country, a new culture. So we were never migrants because of necessity. The first time it was because of choice, and the second time again, it was a choice.
Okay.
That's cool.
So, I'm just curious because you said your sense of adventure kind of diminished and your husband kept just going and he's like, let's go here, let's go. I'm curious to see if maybe he decides to go somewhere else again. But why do you think that diminished for you? Because I don't know, could it be something that has to do with childbirth, or does it have anything to do with just your personality? Like, why do you think that sense of adventure of moving from place to place just kind of diminished for you?
I would say a bit of both. So I think my female brain kind of kicked in because, suddenly I was thinking of putting down roots. At one point in my life, all I could think of was, I want to skydive. I want to bungee jump. I want to scuba dive. I want to go to space. But something kind of tweaked in my brain where I'm like, I want to have a house. I want to have children. I want to be safe. So I think that was definitely there. And once my brain moved to I want to be a mom, my sense of adventure, my whole plan to have a motorbike was going to be a Harley Davidson kind of went back.
That's hilarious.
And then life happens because then I had to do exams. I had to get a job, which is another wake-up call with migration is it's not a holiday. And I think for me, there was a moment where I realized I'm not a tourist here. Like, I need to pay bills.
Party's over.
Yeah, exactly. There's no holiday money.
Fair
It's
enough.
finished. I need to work, blah, blah, blah. So life also kind of slowed me down. And then, so we've talked about personality. And there was a third thing. So being a mom, my personality being, yes, I can sometimes be a mix between extro and intro. Sometimes I just need to power down, but I do love being out there. I love having fun. And then life. So yeah, I think those things slowed me down.
I also feel like there's probably something about having a partner who is very adventurous, where it's like sometimes when we have people in our space that can hold those parts of us, then we don't have to be kind of as vigilant. It's like when there's something going on and one partner's like really anxious, sometimes it makes the other person calm because you're just like balancing the scales. And so I feel like that can be the same way. It's like if your husband wasn't adventurous, then you might feel like, okay, I need to make sure we have adventures, and you might feel like you have to take on that role more. But because you'll have that in your life, that's all gonna be there. It's like it almost gives you permission to be like, okay, I'm gonna nurture this other side of myself, and I'm gonna feel grounded because that feels okay because I know the adventure is gonna be there.
Exactly. I can chill and let him dream.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is, between me and him, he's actually the quiet one. I'm the non-quiet one. But I guess it's just that dreaming and jumping. So yeah, you're definitely right. There's that complementing each other as well. And we had an agreement, like, we did have the conversation. Okay, we have this sense of adventure. What are we going to do with it? And we're like, the sky is the limit. Let's marry. So, sorry.
I also love how whenever you do the voice for you or your husband, you turn into this like cartoon character. I really just make yourself sound like children. It's amazing. I love it. Please don't stop.
Oh, man. So yeah, would I do it again? I probably would. Yeah, because Anya mentioned a kind of mini migration we did in the middle, and that was my choice because I really wanted our kids, especially my son, who at the time he was 9. I really wanted him to know where I was from. And so him being British, in quotes, but born to Nigerian parents. Of course, there were times when he wasn't quite sure what he was. And he had this idealistic view of Nigeria, that it was just this great place where everybody was brown. And it was just wonderful. So two things. I did want him to experience living in a place where everybody is brown. I wanted him to live where I've come from and understand.
So did you move back to Nigeria?
Yes,
briefly.
briefly.
I didn't realize that.
Yes,
Okay.
just briefly between England and Canada. We did some 6 months in Nigeria, where the kids went to school.
Wow.
Which was a big deal because, again, we wanted to make it wasn't a holiday.
Right.
So they went to school. I did some work, and we just but it was more like a mini interim, like intermission. Where I wanted my kids to know what it was like to be an African living in Africa.
So did you always, when you went back, at that point, did you know you were coming to Canada?
Yes.
You did, okay.
So this brainwave came when I heard we were coming to Canada, and I was like,
you're like, let's do this first.
North America?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very interesting. But I want us to back up just a little bit. So you mentioned that there were reasons why you felt like, okay, we're going to North America, but we have to go home first. Let's go to where he's going to feel like he has other brown people with him. Could you walk us through the journey to like what led to that situation where you're like, okay, go home. You want to be brown? You want to be close to people that are brown like you? Let's try that out. Like, what was the reason? What was the sting that happened in the UK? Because he is British, right? That led you to that intermission.
Yeah, it was definitely driven by him, because I used to travel to Nigeria almost every year when I lived in the UK, because my family are all there. I'm the only one in my house, in my the family I was born into, who doesn't live in Nigeria. And my husband, his family were all in England. So the kids had family. They had grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunties. But my son was going to school in Southeast England, and he was going to a private school where 99.9% of the students were Caucasian. And he'd been going there from when he was 4. And when he was about 6, 7, he started complaining, they're not nice to me. People aren't nice to me. And then one day he eventually said, I think life would be much easier if I was white. And when he said that, I was concerned for him, because I thought, okay, it's fair enough to have some kind of identity thing where you're trying to decipher who you are, but you shouldn't want to be a different race. That means you're struggling with who you are. And so he'd gone to Nigeria with me around that time. And his comment was, everybody is brown hair. I want to live here. So I said, well, yeah, it's really cool. This is the brown factory. I said, this is where brown people are manufactured and exported all over the world. And he was just blown away. But I could see his face. He loved it, He just loved being like everybody else. He loved being home, kind of. And I said to him, you don't even know what life is like here. And he said, I want to live here. So when my husband came up with the idea of moving to Canada, I said, I'm just wondering if this would be a good opportunity to let this child experience what it's like to live in the land of brown people. And for him it's two things. One, for him to recognize his strength as a Black person. And where his roots are, because Africa is an amazing continent. Yes, we have our struggles, but Africa is an amazing continent. There's no reason to ever feel ashamed to be African.
Of course.
So I wanted him to develop that sense of self-worth and even a sense of, this is where I'm from. This is my heritage, and I'm proud of it. But I also wanted him to demystify the idea that you can succeed because of your race or where you live. I wanted him to recognize that even when you go to Africa and you're all brown, there are still challenges. There's still relationship dynamics are still there. You still have to figure out how to be human, even if you're all brown. And you also have to recognize that human beings are just human beings.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole racism thing is real, but guess what? It's a human problem.
Right,
You
right.
know, so
it shows up in different forms, but there's always going to be power imbalances and how we take advantage of those.
Exactly.
But so interesting to not fixate on one problem. If this was my situation, my life would be so much easier.
Exactly.
kind of
You
thing.
know.
That's so interesting that like you did that for him essentially, and I'm curious to know what his experience was like if you know how it felt like for him.
He went to school, and one of the reasons why we wanted him in school was, again, we wanted it not to be a holiday, because holidays are such, they're not real.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but when you are in school and you have to survive amongst other kids, it shows you so much. So he went into school, but one of the big things I noticed was very quickly his accent changed. And when his accent changed, it was like overnight. And I said, why are you speaking like that? You know, and he was using this thick Niger accent. Mommy, my friend said I should come.
Oh my God, this is actually so cute though, because I'm picturing this like little British boy, like just like the next day, and I'm like,
Little British boy who was going to a private school in southeast rural England, where everyone is rather posh,
Right.
and just being Negro in such an environment is, challenging.
I like that he whipped out the British accent.
Oh my gosh, that's so.
And he's like, Mommy, I want to go to my friend's house.
Hilarious.
I was like, why are you speaking like that? Like, I'm fine with it, but why? And then he switched to his British accent, and he said, because Mommy, I have to. And, he had to survive because he was being picked on because of his accent. He dared one day say he was British, and somebody took him up on it and said, you ain't British, you're from Nigeria, Joe. And he had to survive. But he realized human beings are human beings.
Right.
Just like you said, that power dynamic is still there. Suddenly the kids with a Nigerian accent are stronger than you with your British accent, and suddenly you're foreign.
Yeah.
Even though you're brown too, you're foreign.
Yeah. And if it
so
wasn't about your accent, it would probably be about the lightness of your skin. And if it wasn't about that, it'd be about something else.
Your height, your weight, your academic
nose.
ability, your nose, your hair, everything. So I was happy that he figured that out.
Yeah.
That he quickly realized, okay, level playing field here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's reset.
Interesting.
And even though he did his best to blend in, when we were leaving, and I asked him, how did that go for you? He said, Mom, I realized home is where you make it, and I think I'm ready to go home now. But for me, I was thinking, moving to Nigeria as home is not really an option for you, because we promised we would live where your father lives.
Yeah.
Your father is not coming to live in Nigeria. So you have to deal with that. Now, how are you going to define where home is? Because this is a thing for me as an immigrant. I've always wondered, where is home for me? I talk about Nigeria and I say I want to go home because my family live there. But let's be honest, Nigeria is not really home for me anymore. It isn't. So even when I go there, I feel a little bit foreign. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm really ready to go home now. And then I come here and I'm like, is this home? I don't know.
Yeah.
Where is home? Where is home? And I don't think it's that way for like second generation immigrants, but for someone like me who I moved out of Nigeria as an adult. Yes, I do still struggle sometimes with where is my home. So I needed him to define for himself, what are the values? What makes a place home for you?
Interesting.
And
do you think he was ready to leave because it was always in his mind, it was always a temporary thing, the plan was for it to always be 6 months, and so he knew time was up, or did he actually want to leave?
He didn't even know about leaving. We had said, let's go see what it's like to live in Nigeria. I didn't actually put a time limit on it.
Okay.
In my mind, I knew I had between December and July. I could have taken as long as I wanted because I didn't have a job. So, and that's why we did it, because I resigned my job, and suddenly it's like, I'm a free agent. I can go anywhere in the world. So we didn't put a time limit on it. I knew that I couldn't live like that permanently.
Sure.
And I even, toyed with, oh, honey, maybe you could come to Nigeria. And he's like, no way. So I knew it was a short-term thing, but what was happening was they were finishing school.
Right.
So they finished what would have been grade 3 for him, and he was done school. And it was like, now let's go. We're done this. Let's go back to England and pack up and then move to Canada. So that was how we did it. So from Nigeria, we went back to England. But on the way, I just, sampled and said, so how do you feel? And he's like, I just want to be where Dad is now. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And again, he had realized, Nigeria is not paradise.
Right.
Being amidst other brown people is not paradise.
Yeah.
Life is life.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, there might be stuff everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Interesting.
I'm just kind of curious about, because you're so many times you give me advice about parenting and everything, especially when my child struggles with. I'm just wondering, how did you get to that point where you always know the right answers? Like, how was it raising your son? I really wanted Tiwa to be here, your son, but he's not coming home for the summer. So, because I also wanted to hear from him, like, okay, what did you think about your upbringing? How did mom do? Right? But from your perspective, what do you think helped to shape? Because Tiwa is like a star kid. Everybody like sees Tiwa and they're like, but I can imagine how, like, it wasn't always like that, right? Because they always have their, like, kids will be kids, right?
Yeah.
So how was it for you raising a male? Because it's not just about being African, but an African male child in a very white world, from one white world to another, even though there was that intermission. How was that for you? How was the journey, the motherhood journey? How did you just become who you are as a mom right now?
So I'm still on the journey, but I will say to you, many mistakes and many moments of, do I even know what I'm doing? Like, you're a mom. There's no manual. Nobody tells you how. Besides, there's no manual because every kid is different, So I can't even, I have 2 children and the same rules don't apply for each one. What worked for one, the other one just looks at me and is like, sorry, what? So no one, I think for me, my personal experience with parenting is I haven't really known what I was doing. I read The Contented Child and I read The Contented Baby and all those books, but there are no rules sometimes. I think what I've just tried to do is be honest. Some of the conversations I've had with my son have included, listen, I'm also muddling through this thing where maybe how I did that wasn't great and I'm sorry. But I had my reasons, I did it because I thought it would be good for you. I thought it would be great for you. Like, even the whole experience of going to Nigeria, there are times when I still wonder, what were we doing? Was that really helpful?
Yeah.
And did we even leave this poor child with scars? Because getting to the country he thought was, mini paradise and having to experience it not being mini paradise. There were times when I wondered, was that just a bit much for him? Did he need that? Should we have just said, oh, Mickey Mouse is real and so is Santa. Let's go to Canada, Should we have, or did it help him that there was this reality check on, you can't go through life blaming everybody else.
You can listen to the rest of this conversation by searching The Diary of a Niger Immigrant on cgsw.com or wherever you get your podcasts. The Diary of a Niger Immigrant is proudly presented to you through Onyi's Lens. You can keep up with us on Instagram by following The Diary of a Niger Immigrant and through Onyi's Lens. Don't forget to rate, share, like, and drop a comment on topics you'd like us to discuss. And I'll see you on the next one.